Americans. It has been confirmed today from pep talks that we are indeed all high on politics.
Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. And today we're talking about U.S. healthcare. We're talking about the Secretary of Defense. And we are talking about generally what progressives are going to be pitching for our picks for things that progressives normally don't talk about. Why? Why talk about the specifics of candidates for positions we don't even like? Well, because we don't like them. Because every conversation that we don't have a strongly expressed opinion in, our opinion will be assumed for us, and it will be the most neoliberal nightmare you can fathom. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. But first, I've asked someone to come on the stream who has a lot of insight into arguably America's most obvious flaw, at least its most recognized flaw. So I'm going to ask Alessandra to come on in and say hello. Alessandra, how are you doing? Oh, wait a minute. I should probably do this. There we go.
Hi, can you see and hear me okay?
Yes, indeed.
Great.
Before we get into the specifics of why I've invited you here, I was hoping I could just ask you a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, please.
Tell the audience who you are in terms of mundane stuff. What shows do you like? What do you do for fun?
Gosh, that's interesting. So my name is Alessandra. I live in Portland, Oregon. So hello from war-torn Portland, Oregon. I was able to brave the fires. Luckily, they got the lieutenant of Antifa, so I should be safe for now.
Oh, good.
Yes. Yeah. So I like playing music. I like listening to music. I used to be in a punk band back in the day. Got a little old for that, but I still like going to shows and seeing live music. I like playing video games when I get a chance, but doesn't seem like that happens too much.
Yeah. As a musician, what was your position?
I play guitar.
Ah, all right.
Yeah.
Well, you sound like the sort of person people would enjoy having in their lives.
Oh, that's kind. Thank you.
Let's break some hearts. Tell folks what's going on with you medically.
Yeah, so in 2023, I was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. I went through 7 cycles of chemotherapy, a pretty major surgery. At the point that I was diagnosed, it had spread to my liver, other parts in my body. So it was a major surgery. I did 10 sessions of radiation, some hospital stays, lots of testing, all of the things, and all of it was covered by the Oregon Health Plan, which is, our Medicaid, Obamacare essentially here in Oregon.
Yeah. So now that is changing. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So I went to renew my coverage a couple of weeks ago now, and thought it was a pretty standard process. You do have to renew every so often and just sort of make sure that nothing has changed significantly, in your finances. So went through the interview process. Nothing has changed in my finances, and at the end of the conversation, they said, "Okay, well, as of December 1st, you are no longer covered," which was a pretty big gut punch.
Yeah.
So that is where I'm at right now. I don't know 100% why this is happening. It is I kind of want to be clear that it's not directly linked to what we're seeing in other places in the cuts, or basically the increases of the premiums because of the subsidies ending from the so that is something that is about to happen. But I do want to be clear that what is going on with my loss of coverage isn't necessarily directly linked to that. So
I don't know
from
that I
my,
agree. I
sure,
I,
I mean, totally.
I
I say
appreciate that you're
these.
not, throwing accusations without confidence, but when
I'm
you're
not
telling
saying.
me,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, by all means, go ahead.
It is absolutely connected. Like these things are obviously all connected, and I mean, frankly, that's a lot of why I want to be having these kinds of conversations, is talking about the ways in which this stuff is connected, not only in the realm of healthcare, but I'm here in Portland. I'm seeing the people that have been sent here to on our tax dollars to just harass guys in frog suits. That's the same money that's being taken from cancer research and
Yeah.
treatment. So I do want to make those connections, but I want to be very clear about in terms of just the facts around this stuff, because I don't know 100%, and it's hard to really get to the bottom of. And I don't want to just immediately go to the place of saying, oh, it's because the big beautiful bill, it's because of they are related and they are connected. But I don't want to write a check my mouth can't cash and say something that's not necessarily factually correct.
Every inch of this conversation is illustrative of the deep flaws with America, and it's not your fault. This is you reacting to irrational criticism of people simply asking for health care. So I appreciate that you're not throwing accusations around without full confidence of yada yada yada. I understand. Let me not yada that. Of the specific changes to our flawed healthcare system. True, but the fact that you feel that you have to tiptoe like that as your life is on the line, as somebody has said, as of December 1st, we're just going to let you die, in their words, essentially. It tells you how irrational the arguments against this truly have been, to the point where it's not people looking for the best, most efficient way to run a country. It's people looking for excuses not to help people, not to make the country we deserve. I'm going to ask you some rhetorical questions now just to help make the point. Would you be, on top of all the worries you have dealing with this disease just naturally, would you be concerned about December 1st in particular if you lived in Canada? Would you be concerned about December 1st in particular if you lived in the UK?
I would not.
And I have a feeling you wouldn't if you also lived in Austria, New Zealand, freaking Kuwait, Morocco, Argentina, who we just gave $20 billion to. And let me bring it back to the more modern policies. We just gave $174 billion to ICE to bust into your town and bully people and throw old men and women onto the cement. And we apparently don't have the budget to pay for health care for a young and otherwise would stand a great chance of making it human being. I find that inexcusable. And I'd like to further make the point by pulling up an article with you right here. I don't want to read the whole thing. I just want to show the links in the description of the video, by the way. But I want to show folks. We've known about this. It's not a difficult conversation. And we have, and don't worry about it, Nick, I got it. There we go. Yeah, we've known about this for well, at least since 2020. I do hope this thing shows up on the screen soon, but I will actually I take it back, Nick. Hey, there you go. Alessandra, for the record, I frequently tell Nick not to help me, and then he helps me anyway, right as I'm about to.
I can relate to that.
Okay, so this is an article from Newsweek. Medicare for All would save $450 billion annually while preventing 68,000 deaths. New study shows. It's not a new study anymore. This is a study from 2020. Medicare for All, let me just say that again, would save, not cost $450 billion more, would save $450 billion for taxpayers. And also save Alessandra and 67,999 other people every year. The analysis conducted by researchers at Yale University, the University of Florida, and the University of Maryland found that transitioning the U.S. to a single-payer healthcare system, that's Medicare for All, folks, would actually save, technically it would be Medicaid for all, but whatever, would actually save an estimated $450 billion each year, with the average American family seeing about $2,400 in annual savings. That's $2,400 that every household could be spending on jet skis or fancy Christmas presents or almost anything else, because that would actually help the economy. Anyway, the research, which was published not Saturday, but a Saturday 5 years ago in the medical journal The Lancet, also found that Medicare for All would prevent about 68,000 unnecessary deaths per year. So the point being, what you are asking for, what would make you have no problems right now, already exists in most other economies that are equivalent to the United States around the world. I would say, I believe all others, but like you, because we've been burned for being even slightly wrong, I will say with confidence most other major economies. And it would be cheaper for us. So the arguments against providing you health care are not rational. It doesn't save money.
They're not. And I mean, I would also mention, like, in conversations that I've heard from the likes of, RFK Jr. In particular, about, I've seen him say that the flaws of Medicaid or Medicare are that, you still have these high premiums, or you don't have access to the right doctors. And that's something that I want to communicate is very much not true. Again, I'm in Portland, Oregon. Some of the top hospital, we have really great hospital systems here. The level of care that I had access to is more than most, to be honest, even with insurance, if they were in a more rural area, or so I had also acupuncture covered by Medicaid to help with my side effects. There's special dental oncologists because chemo messes your mouth up. All of these things were covered, every single one of them. So if there's anybody that wants to say, and by anybody I mostly mean RFK Jr. wants to say, that these programs are not, effective, or you don't have access to it's simply not true. I'm sure that there's room for improvement. That room for improvement being that everyone should have it, I suppose. But as far as the arguments against it that they're trying to make, it's just simply not true.
how much paperwork did you have to fill out to access the benefits that you did have?
Hardly any. It's actually very easy. Coincidentally, before I was diagnosed, my job prior to that was mostly helping primarily unhoused trans folks sign up for the Oregon Health Plan, because
Hmm.
they all, under a certain level of income, everyone automatically qualifies. It's a pretty easy program to get into. However, if you don't have a computer or access to Wi-Fi or, that sort of thing, or just like are intimidated by a lot of text, that can be really challenging. So my job previously was actually helping people sign up for the Oregon Health Plan. And it's very simple. And you get approved pretty quickly. And it was, I don't know if this is going to be the case now, but it was also tied to the SNAP benefits, the food stamps, so that when you apply for OHP, you also sort of automatically become then enrolled in the SNAP program as well. So it's really a very simple application.
So yeah, so it's entirely possible to run this in a way that allows you to only worry about dealing with your health and
Yes.
not a mound of paperwork, as your state has successfully set up.
Yes.
The problem is the funding for this has to be tied to a national system. Otherwise, we're competing against other states. Um, and we get, in order to discourage as many people from literally saving themselves as possible, we get things like have just now happened to you, where uh, hurdles are put in the way. People are knocked off the system where they can get it, where they can be knocked off, and they prey upon people who are at their absolute weakest. I think. I mean, if as you're, what kind of things go through your head when you find out, not only have I had cancer before, but the cancer's back? What do you
Um,
think?
yeah, I mean, it's hard to reply to that. I mean, when I got the information that I was losing coverage, I mean, as soon as December 1st, so that it doesn't give me very much time to prepare in any way. If I was able to, try to find other alternatives or something like that. When I first found out, my instinct was to give up, to shut down. I was joking with a friend earlier, smoke them if you got them. Go, go buy a
Yeah.
pack of cigarettes and, go out with a bang. And I felt that for a day or two. And, my inclination in general, and definitely in this moment, is to use it to the best of my ability to, try and draw some attention to this, what's happening, and frankly what's about to happen to a whole lot of people, and I
Mm.
would say a probably good majority of them don't know that it's coming.
This is happening to somebody who is uniquely able to navigate all this hell. Uh, I shudder to think about what's going to happen to people who are not able to navigate it. Now,
Yeah.
I got to be selfish here and say I hope that we're not just accepting the outcome assigned by a heartless government. I hope you are looking for ways you can get funding for the next stage of treatment. What is the next stage of treatment that you have to fund?
Yeah, so where I'm at with my treatment right now is, I've gone through what they call sort of the frontline treatment, so the chemo and the surgery and the radiation, and I'm on, they essentially call it maintenance right now. So I'm on a medication it's called a PARP inhibitor. This stuff is all new to me, so I don't expect anyone to know what I'm talking about. But it essentially, its job is to prevent more growth. Its job is to sort of starve the cancer cells that might want to, make more. And it's a newer treatment relatively. It's something that wasn't available just a few years ago when my mom had cancer. So it's a newer treatment, and it has incredibly high rates of preventing recurrence for about 2 years. That seems to be right now, generally speaking, what seems to be average is it can buy you a couple of years. I was also doing immunotherapy, which sort of the same idea, which tries to kind of keep the cancer at bay. I was supposed to have that a couple of weeks ago, and I had to tell my oncologist that I'm losing coverage, and we both decided to not continue with the immunotherapy, because when you're on these treatments, it's not just the medication, it's also you need to be monitored pretty closely, because if you're on, it's a chemotherapy medication, it's just a smaller amount, and there are all sorts of side effects, and it's unsafe to be receiving these treatments or taking these medications without monitoring, kidney function, doing MRIs and CAT scans every so often to monitor for growth. So, this is coming from my oncologist, that this, it wasn't me sort of, being defeatist or alarmist in the situation. She said, okay, it's not safe to continue then. It's not safe to move forward with these specific treatments.
So it's safe to say that this, even though they said you're getting shut off on December 1st for this funding, it's already affecting your treatment.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm not continuing with the immunotherapy. And sort of as a side note, anyone who maybe has been through cancer and has done, infusions, chemotherapy, and immunotherapy, there's a thing that you do when you do your final one, and you ring a bell. There's a bell in most chemo wards, and when you finish it, it's kind of this celebratory moment. You ring this little bell, and the nurses cheer for you. I didn't get to do that. I didn't get to do my last one, and have that little moment, because it was taken away from me. I didn't get to have the experience of that completion of like, okay, this is my final infusion. And in a way, it's like, that makes me sadder, because the immunotherapy, like, who knows how much difference missing the final infusions that I was supposed to get. I'll never know what difference that might have made for me in the long run, but I know that I'm missing out on that experience that I wanted really badly.
So are you now just going to be, cast out into the world to hope for the best, or are they saying there's some way you can monitor it cheaply?
Somewhere in between. I've said it before, but God bless social workers. The good ones, they're not all great, but the good ones, they will save you. And anyone who's ever going through some stuff, and you have access to a social worker, don't turn that down. So I have a really wonderful social worker who is working around the clock trying to find any kind of program that I might be able to be covered by. There's some different ones. Like I have an application for the financial assistance through the hospital. I also may qualify for Medicare sometime next year. So right now, the kind of the focal point, because I sort of what I've learned in this is I have to keep everything just sort of one step at a time, and the focal point right now is finding a patch from December to what we're hoping, which is in the spring of 2026, that I would qualify for Medicare. I'm not holding on to that, just for, if nothing else, will Medicare exist in April? You know what I mean?
Oh no. It genuinely may not. I mean, that's where we are.
And even, on the phone, I was on the phone with Medicaid, Medicare, the Oregon Health Plan, Oregon Health Authority, Aging and Disability, all of these different offices in these different places. And, they're telling me to apply for, I don't know if this is national, the way that this is set up, but in Oregon, they call it the marketplace for the Oregon Health Plan, where if you don't qualify for the full coverage that is 100% free, they have these subsidies that have, you know, been making it so, you know, people that make like just a little bit more than you know, the cutoff for the full coverage can use this marketplace for really significant discounted you know, monthly rates. Now we know that November 7th, though the rates, the premiums that folks pay, the subsidies are being cut, you know, I think but somewhere between 40 and 60%, so that so people's premiums are about to double in some cases. So
Yeah.
you know, this person that I'm talking to on the phone from, you know, Social Security or whatever it is, they're saying, oh, well, you know, try the marketplace, try this. And, you know, I try not to get frustrated or upset with the folks that are, you know, giving me the bad news and whatnot, because I know that not everyone is inclined to pay as much attention to these bills and all of these things that are happening as I am, because I was already fairly politically aware before all of this. But, you know, I had to say on the phone, I said, now, why on earth would I do that? Why would I apply for something that I know I'm not going to be able to afford as of what are we at 10 days or, you know, a week and a half, maybe. It's not worth my time to try and get into that program for it to immediately go away.
I want folks to try to imagine for a second what your last week was like. Think about the errands you had to do. Think about the work you had to get done and all the chores and the life things that stack up. Now imagine you're having to do that, interact with the folks at the cashier station and all that, co-workers, extended family and such. Imagine you have to do all that, carrying the weight that you have a life-threatening disease to deal with. That's already a notable in terms of your whole life amount of stress to have, thing to be dealing with. But now imagine that you don't even have the guarantees of what was promised in America. You don't actually have the ability to access the doctors, the medication, all of that. Imagine you are going through your life doing your normal daily tasks and thinking about all that. You're also having to make time for tedious phone calls with people who are acting callous about your life.
I would
And
just like to interject that the vast majority of the staff that I speak to in these kind of institutions are very kind and really I just want to put that out there, is that
very kind as they
very
tell you the cold, hard reality that we've
and I know
allowed
that it
to.
hurts them too. I know it. I can hear, you know, I can hear how much it hurts them too. I really can.
Now imagine you're Alessandra and you're actually such a good person that you're feeling bad for the people who have to tell you that you live in a country that doesn't care whether its citizens live or die. That's how good of a person you're being. And I don't know how you have any decency left over to smile at somebody, to hold the door for an old person walking behind you. I don't know how you do, but I'm sure you do, just talking to you.
Well, you know,
You're an incredibly strong person.
one of my I'd say that like my political views or my views as a person, I really like this quote from Michael Brooks that's, you know, be kind to people, be ruthless to systems. Like
Yes.
that's my ethic in a lot of ways. And people as individuals, in my experience, generally speaking, are kind and caring people that don't want to do you harm. I've worked a lot of customer service, things like that. I know how people can, you know, so sometimes the others might like to talk down to them or, you know, not treat them as humans, not show them a lot of respect. And I try to keep that in mind when I'm having these conversations with, you know, people in healthcare. And I also use that as an opportunity to get information. Whenever I'm speaking with, someone on my care team, or, someone, from insurance, I ask, what's the temperature? What's going on behind the scenes? And my doctors will tell me, layoffs, hiring freezes, all of these things in preparation for the rural hospitals closing.
Yeah.
And so, the even the folks that I talk to from, like Medicaid, I mean, I'm on the phone crying, I'm sobbing, and just, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And, I'll tell you that more often than not, I feel like the people that I'm talking to are right there with me. And I'll just say, there was one person that I spoke to for, I mean, over an hour. He was trying to find some loophole or some human error that might have happened. And, I was crying to him, and I just said, thank you. And I said something like, I hope people are being kind to you right now. And what he said to me, he said, everyone is being kind except for the people that voted for this. And I don't know what else to tell you. That's coming from, a pretty head person at the Oregon health plan, because it had been funneled up to him to try and find loopholes. And this man who, sounded like an older white gentleman, that's what he said. He said that the people that are mean to him when he has to tell them that they're losing their coverage are across the board people that voted for it. But
Yeah.
they deserve health care too.
Yes, they do.
For the record.
Yes, they do. I mean, we just can't afford to lose you. There's not enough like this in the world as is. So we're not gonna just accept the bad decision of this government. Keep in touch with this community. If it comes down to doing a massive campaign, we can't do it. But a medium campaign,
yeah, for sure.
We'll try.
And that's, that stuff is, we've chatted about this a little bit, and that's all I can do right now is focus on that stuff. I do have this sort of unique opportunity that I believe that I can get people to start paying attention to some of this stuff in a way that they might not have otherwise, because I think that cancer is so, I don't know that there's anyone that cancer hasn't affected.
Yeah.
If not them personally, someone you love has been through cancer. And
It haunts all of us.
yes. And, so I've been in a lot of situations with people that may not be especially, interested in I mean, it's like, I'm hesitant to call this stuff politics, because it's like, it's my life, it's my life isn't politics, but it is in a way, and so I've seen so many people respond to me talking about my situation in a way that I don't think that they would have otherwise, if they didn't have kind of a personal, a face to match this.
Yeah. And for the same reason that I think the people who are being rude to this guy you were talking to all come from, all voted for the people that are making it happen. It's because it's hypothetical until you're there in front of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
They were
And
happy
that's
to vote for hypothetical cruelty under the assumption that they themselves wouldn't be the person experiencing it. They weren't
right.
prepared.
Yeah.
I think this is necessary. Deeply sad, but necessary for the people who are being affected by this, as they're being affected by it, to say what's happening and point the finger at the people who are responsible. And you're right. It's not the voters, although boy are they frustrating, but it is in fact the people they voted for. And we have to explain specifically what's happened, why it's happened. On a related note, amongst Democrats, I have noticed, like, for example, in my own state, There's people who are trying to wink, nod, and nudge as though they are supporting universal health care, but they're looking for excuses not to, or ways to say we need more baby steps. Do you think there should be any Democrat at all who makes it through a primary who doesn't support universal health care?
I thought you were going to end it. Do you think there should be any Democrat at all?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, but that's another conversation.
No, of course not. You know, I mean, it's absurd. You know, it's absurd that wouldn't be at the forefront of any. It's such a, except for that misinformation that I was talking about earlier from the likes of RFK Jr. Who can argue? It's absurd that wouldn't be the number one thing that people are talking about, because like it is, you know, across the aisle, even if people don't necessarily realize it.
I would argue that if you are not running on universal health care, if it's not been literally on your website and a promise made on the website, as well as into a microphone, as well as to a reporter, then you're not even worth consideration as a Democrat.
Yeah.
And I would encourage, let's get to the what you can do part. Folks at home, let's start there. Write the people who are running for office right now in your area. There will be some, and tell them they are not going to be considered, even considered, no matter what else they have to say, if universal health care is not top of their list of things to do. Alessandra, you are welcome back anytime, my friend.
Thank you. If I may just sort of briefly, a thing that's important to me to communicate, and I'm hoping maybe at some point I'll get a chance to talk about this stuff more, is yes, the calling the representatives, yes, the voting, but also there's so much that we can do locally to bring awareness. You know, I'm in Portland. I'm in a bigger city. I have a lot of opportunities to protest. I've shown you some of the things that I've done in the past, but also if you're in a small town, you know, if you're somewhere more rural, you know, you and 10 of your friends standing on a corner with a sign that you know says you know, Medicaid cuts will kill us, you know, whatever it is, whatever, even if it's not that, if there's some other, whatever is in your heart that you want to communicate, I'd argue that stuff can be even more impactful than you know, some of the city organizing. And again, it's about putting a face to things, making these things personal.
I would say that is a very good point. And I'll go one step further. If there is estimated 68,000 people a year that died from not getting treatment for a treatable thing because of financial concerns, that equates to about how many people a year, it's actually 1/3 more than how many people a year die of car accidents in the United States. That tells me probably everybody knows somebody who experienced this, who is no longer with us because of financial concerns. Put their face on a poster, name their killer. If you're going to stand out there, I would encourage you to stand out there at all, first of all. And second of all, I would also encourage you to name your loved one's killer. Say, my uncle, my nephew, my niece, whoever, died because they could not afford health care. This is them. Look at their face.
And connect those dots for people too, that you know, these things are not, they don't exist in a vacuum. These things are not unrelated to ICE. These things are not unrelated to fucking genocide. You know,
yes.
They are all the same fight, and we can approach them from different angles. You know, healthcare is what's in my heart right now because of what I'm experiencing personally, but this is all the same fight. And the more we make those connections for people that wouldn't otherwise realize that, the better. And just and make it personal, you know, and don't feel like there's nothing you can do. I swear, if you're in a small town and you go out on a street corner with a sign, that's something. And it's super brave. It's braver than being, you know, in a march with 100,000 people. You know, go be brave on your street corner.
make it uncomfortable. There's something intimate about a small group of people,
Exactly.
and they're weaponize your hurt because
Yeah.
we come by it honestly in America, and B, people need to see it. They need to understand you're not just out there because it's fashionable. You're out there because there is suffering to be dealt with, and we have failed as a nation. I will reiterate, our neighbors to the north are lapping us in terms of healthcare. The UK, Argentina, who we just gave $20 billion to, they get health care, but we, the people that give them the money, don't get health care. That's where we are right now. And it's an own goal. It's entirely unnecessary. We've simply lacked the political will or coherence to make it happen. It must end. Alessandra, thank you. I'm now going to complain about much less serious things in the broad scale of things, but they're important.
One little plug I will make, if I may,
Plug
is
it.
I haven't been able to really do anything with this for a minute because I got a little bit too sick after I organized it. I'd organized a demonstration that was named "You Will Kill Me," based on an article that I had seen with some really badass activists, disability activists that went before the bill, the big beautiful bill, was even like on the table. Just when we knew it was coming, they went and there was a sign that said "You will kill me," and that just, to me, that's just like, that's it. And so youwillkill.me is the website. There's not really much there, but on Instagram, I believe it's also youwillkill.me. And right now there's not a whole lot going on, but as time and health allows, I do intend to do more to get the word out around what's coming.
Absolutely. Follow on Instagram. I do have it up right, Chomp. At youwillkill.me, or go to the website youwillkill.me. Alessandra, thanks for coming on. I would love to hear from you again soon.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Jake.
Yes, ma'am. That's the actual human beings we're talking about. When we say that universal health care will save lives, we can quantify the amount of lives: 68,000 a year. In 2000, it was estimated to be around 42,000 a year. We did not have very sophisticated measuring. We measured it again, 2020, 68,000 a year. That's how many we're losing to treatable conditions. Now we have a face. It's 68,000 people like Alessandra. She's a musician. She's fun. She's an exceedingly kind person. As she is dealing with bureaucrats who are telling her that her life is being endangered by the policies they are in charge of carrying out, she is pausing to consider how they must feel carrying out these policies. That's the kind of person we're losing. What do you want this country to look like, sincerely? Who do you want to be here with you? I want it full of people like Alessandra. If it was, we would have none of the problems we have right now. She is farther along with cancer treatment than a lot of folks get. She appears to be on the path to beating this thing. This doesn't have to be an issue. All we need is the agreement of medical staff to administer the medicine that we have, and the medicine makers to issue the medicine that we have. they demand a pretty hefty bribe to save lives. So who's going to pay the bribe? Oregon was willing to, and then she got kicked off. So now somebody else has to pay the bribe. Look, if you're saying that we want the bribe to be smaller, so healthcare to generally be less expensive, universal healthcare takes care of that. Single payer healthcare gives power to the payer because there's just the one, the U.S. government. It can be cheaper like that. Are you saying you want it to be more efficient? It is much, much more efficient when you don't have to go to the individual bank account or insurance policy or yada, yada, yada for the patient, but rather you simply acknowledge that the patient is in fact a U.S. resident, so they are covered. It's more efficient to run healthcare with universal healthcare, with single payer healthcare, in other words. It is better. Do you want it to be cheaper? It is cheaper in every measurable way. It's cheaper in terms of how much overall is paid. It's cheaper in terms of how much the individual pays. There's no way you can turn this issue where it makes sense to have 1800 style healthcare, which is what we have now. In the 1900s, most other civilized countries began to move to universal health care. And now in the 21st century, only barbarians like the United States have this antiquated healthcare system. The answer, as far as progressives go, is to not only vote a certain way, but to communicate to the people who are trying to get your vote that your vote is first and foremost dependent on universal health care. In fact, you're going to have less of a fight if you communicate good and early to the candidates that you intend to affect that they don't have any wiggle room on this. Because if they think they have wiggle room, they're going to try to screw you over. On a related note, we have similar problems to Republicans. And I would like to see us speak honestly about them, to use it to help sway Republicans, and to change the way we have been operating. Here's the problems we have that are similar to Republicans. We often, as progressives, have demands for the way the country should be without a coherent suggestion for how we get there. We have demands for who we want our candidates not to be, but offer no alternative. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's start with this peach right here. Mm-hmm. There we go. Yeah, this magnificent stud in Maine is Graham Plattner. Here's the quick recap if you're not aware. Graham Plattner got out of the military and then went into the private military, became a mercenary for a while, worked for Blackwater, the most evil, maybe the most evil company in the world. But yeah, it's just paid murderers for the United States. That's what Blackwater is, run by Eric Prince. And they had to change their name because they did so many mass killings. But anyway, he was a guard for them. That doesn't speak very well to who he is. No, actually, that doesn't speak very well to who he was. After he got out of the military, he went, as folks do, he went online and started ranting and raving, and he learned about politics. He's always been pretty anti-fascist, which is ironic because it turns out one of the tattoos he got in Croatia while he was, I think, serving with the Marines turned out to be a Nazi symbol. That's all the bad news. The good news is he apparently is willing to cover up that Nazi symbol for a job, for a public office. He says he's personally ashamed that it was ever on him. Okay. I'll take his word for it, I guess. All we have proof of is he's willing to cover it up. Well, good. But we do have evidence to suggest that he's not a Nazi, because if he had any understanding of Nazism, he would know it to be right-wing authoritarianism. And he's been pretty against right-wing authoritarianism. So that tracks. Why is there any good news here? Because this is going to happen more and more and more as our politics is successful. Folks, this is not a good problem to have. One of your candidates had a Nazi tattoo. It's not good. And even if you assume, okay, well, he's not a Nazi, he does get negative points for being a dummy. If he really didn't know he was walking around with a Nazi tattoo on his chest for years, then he's a little bit dumb. Which I can be sympathetic to, certainly. But it's a fact. And we have to acknowledge that and be honest about that if we're going to make a case for the guy. But my point is, we have existed for so long with the expectation of losing the political conversation, that when we come across evidence that we are winning the political conversation, we don't know what to do with it. You've got a guy there who once upon a time was a Marine, and then once again upon a time was a private military contractor who carelessly got a Nazi symbol tattooed on his chest. You got a guy like that who's suddenly running as a progressive, even if he's got the most dishonest of intentions, and I don't think he does, but even if he does have dishonest intentions, what does that tell you about the popularity of our political beliefs? That's good news. That's a good sign for where we are. Also, by the way, you don't have to settle, Mainers. You don't have to settle for Graham Plattner. I don't think he's all that bad, to be honest. Hard to say that when he's looking like that, pawing at his titty, trying to explain that it's a wolf now. I made it a dream catcher. Jackass. But you got time, Mainers. You don't have to settle for Graham Plattner. And if you do, I'm talking about the progressives in Maine. If you do go with Graham Plattner to try to beat Janet Mills in the primary, which you should, if not Graham Plattner or anybody else. But, if it is Graham Plattner, that's not the end of the world. Because we are going to have to learn how to accept people into our belief system. It is a good thing. It is a good thing when somebody used to have beliefs that we hate and is now fighting for beliefs we agree with. If we are successful, if we are able to sway, if we are able to positively make a case for the things we believe, then there are going to be people who voted for Trump twice, 3 times even, who are suddenly on our side. And if that happens, a way to guarantee failure will be to punish them for joining our side, to try to exclude them after we put all this work into convincing them to be part of the movement. That's foolish, short-sighted, and frankly nonsensical. Don't be that. If you actually believe in these things, then you must acknowledge we're going to have to convince others. And if you acknowledge that, then you are acknowledging people will be amongst us who once we hated. We have to not only allow that, we have to encourage that. So get used to it. It's not going to be satisfying. It's going to make you crazy from time to time. I don't care. You have to do it anyway. Again, that's not an endorsement of Graham Plattner. That's just putting Plattner into perspective. Let's put somebody else into perspective. Herp a derp. Look at this nutsack. Unbelievable. That's the Secretary of Defense. That jackass. That guy's in charge of the U.S. military. That pungent nutsack. He's got nukes at his disposal. If you hate this guy, if you think Pete Hegseth was only ever a captain, and as far as I know, didn't actually ever fire a shot in anger. If you think he's a bad choice, let me ask you something. Who would you pick? Progressive? Who is your recommendation for the Secretary of Defense? Who was Joe Biden's Secretary of Defense? It's not been of much interest to progressives to have any knowledge of this stuff whatsoever. We have only been interested in those parts of the government that we like. But this is where the decisions will be made for us. If progressives don't have a demand for Attorney General next time around, then we're going to get another Merrick Garland. If you want our Secretary of Defense to not immediately supply Israel with enough ammunition to carry out a genocide, then you should make sure there is a progressive Secretary of Defense in power. Now, I don't expect you to have an answer right away. I know you don't have one because you've never been asked to have one before. So start thinking about what you think is somebody who is qualified to run the military, if only to be a caretaker of the death machines we've acquired. Who do you think should be our Secretary of Defense? What is a progressive Secretary of Defense's qualifications? Give it some thought, gang. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for what you can do. My name's Jake, and I'll see you on Left Past 10 tomorrow. Coming up, we've got Power Report. What? Nope. It's changed. Coming up, we've got Good Morning Comrade. Oh yeah, and of course, hold up. Of course, my name's Jake. We'll see you around, gang.